and it's Monday, the 29th of April. And Paul Kent has had a bit of an argy-bargy over the weekend.
Yeah, the footage did the rounds, John. We all woke up to it on Sunday morning. Yeah, I mean, obviously, with all these things, it seems like there's more to it than just that footage. Obviously, a lot more to the story, a lot more for the police to look at than just that footage. But, I'll tell you what, the footage wasn't flattering, that's for sure. He didn't come out of it too well at all, I wouldn't have thought. Whether the police decide to lay charges or not, I think it's pretty embarrassing for him. I think that's an understatement, to be honest.
Blast a terrible double leg, so it also looks like I got sent. It's so funny because I got sent it by all the rugby league fans, obviously, that I know. It's in all the chats. Yes. And then I also got sent it by all the jiu-jitsu people that I know. Mocking the terrible grappling. So I got it from all angles. Lots of different angles, lots of different footages, extended, short ones, short clips, everything. So, see, this is not the kind of, we always talk about like innocent until proven guilty, so shouldn't be stood down and blah, blah, blah. But this is the exact kind of thing where they should be stood down,
Well, this time we've got the video footage. Yeah. We can see it for ourselves. That having been said, as I say, there is obviously the police would be looking at a lot more than just that video footage. And we can only comment on that because that's all we've seen. That minute and a bit long video is all we've seen.
Kenny, if you want to come over to my BJJ at Cremorne, I can teach you how to shoot a proper double leg, just so you know. Going to take someone down. It's not a rugby tackle, my friend.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned stood down. He's been stood down by News Corp, stood down from his role as a presenter on Fox League with the co-host of NRL 360. And as a columnist in the Daily Telegraph, of course, we know he was stood down last year as well on those charges. He was later found not guilty of those charges. But yeah, it just didn't look good, did it? This incident took place approximately 11:20 p.m. on Saturday night. And the footage has just spread like wildfire on social media. It took place on Evans Street. I think it was outside Totty's in Rozelle, this incident. So, he was found not guilty of assaulting and choking a woman. He was in an on and off relationship last year. And last year he was stood down for most of the year. He wasn't on NRL 360 for most of the season last year. And again, he'll be missing from NRL 360. Now, I got to say, the show is better with him on it than with him not on it. It just is. That's the fact of the matter. Gordon Tallis took his place on the show last year. And I didn't think the show was anywhere near as good with Gordon Tallis co-hosting it. I've got to be brutally honest about that. So I think it's all going to depend on whether the police charge him or not. I think if the police don't charge him, he'll be back sooner rather than later once this blows over. I think if they charge him, it'll be that same scenario as last year in that he'll be stood down until the matter is resolved.
I don't think they'll charge him because what's the point?
Well, there just wasn't. He just didn't lay a glove on the guy. Yeah. So there just wasn't really much there. Well, from what we've seen on the footage again, we don't know the full story. I saw this morning that a 35-year-old man has been charged by police. But this man wasn't the one in the video. It was another man. So someone. So that's what I mean when I say, well, there's more to it than just that footage, because the man's been charged following a video of Kent and another man involved in a heated argument. That other man was the man, of course, we saw in the heated argument, who he called a doghead, among other things. Gee, I don't know, that's not much of an insult, is it? A doghead. You think of all the insults you could come up with, I reckon you could do better than doghead.
Doghead's a weird one. It's like he was trying to censor himself.
Yeah.
Like an AI-generated swearing censor.
Yeah, that 35-year-old was taken to Newtown Police Station overnight and charged with a fray. So that's the 35-year-old man. Again, this is not the man in the video. This is another man. So this is what we mean when we say there's more to it than just that video footage. It was bizarre yesterday. We had these stories on the Daily Mail website saying that, he was visited by an entourage of his friends, Paul Kent, yesterday. One of them tried to dummy the media by putting something over his head, pretending to be Paul Kent to try and run as a decoy and fool the reporters. That was just bizarre to me. I mean, it's Paul Kent. It's not, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Is he really of the level of fame for, reporters to be camped outside his house? I thought that was a bit much.
Once again, there's always going to be something weird that happens in rugby league.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a bit rich though, isn't it? When you get, we saw on NRL 360 just last week, you might remember that confrontation between Jack Hetherington and Reid Marnie in the dressing rooms, and Paul Kent was very strongly opinionated on that, had a lot to say about Jack Hetherington coming out of the dressing rooms to meet Reid Marnie and be physical with him. You sort of look at what's happened on Saturday night there and you go, bit rich now, Kenty.
Yeah, man.
You've had a go at Jack Hetherington and now look what you've been filmed doing.
That's actually really I think that happened last time as well, like when he got done for putting himself in that situation. Everyone brought up every single time that he's ever criticised another player for.
That's the thing. That's his day job. His job is to call these people out.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, and I know he was found not guilty last year of those charges. We need to point that out and be clear about that. But it doesn't really look too good when you have incidents like the Saturday night one, when you think about that this guy makes a living out of calling players out for indiscretions, as like the Jack Hetherington one, which was very recent that I just pointed out. Again, he's probably in high. I mean, it's embarrassing how bad the fight was, isn't it? But for him, it's probably worked out pretty well. I think in the long term, he'll be back and he'll be getting his jobs back. In the near future. I mean, even if he is charged by the police, he'll probably get off with just a slap on the wrist and he'll be back.
Community
working.
service or a fine or something like that. Afraid just means that you have some argy-bargy, you incite violence or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, look, this 35-year-old has been charged with that. I don't know what. I'm no lawyer or legal expert. I don't know what you'd be charging Paul Kent with if he does get charged at all.
It's basically just having a fight.
Yeah, but just looking at that, from what we can only comment on what we saw. That's all we can comment on. From what we saw, there's really not a whole lot in it. I mean, it looks very embarrassing, and it's just foolish to have done what he's done, but it's certainly not the crime.
If the police want to pursue a charge, they can charge for a fray without having to use the person that is assaulted. If the person that is assaulted wants to be involved in the charge, then it would be like an assault charge. The police always charge for a fray whenever there's fight, just to tack on more charges, but it's a minimal charge. So at most, I would say Paul Kent's going to get charged with a fray, and as you said, slap on the wrist. But man alive, just stop it. You're a 54-year-old man. You don't need to be out on the piss getting into fights, man. Like it's time to.
Yeah, I mean, I should declare again, John, I do work for News Corp. I'm a freelancer with Fox Sports News, so I should point that out because we are talking about News Corp. I just want to put that out there. But gee, they'd be, you'd have to think they would be just running out of patience at this point, wouldn't they? Again, found not guilty of those charges last year, but just the fact that they keep having to stand him down all the time.
Yeah, well, he's not exactly popular. A well-liked, popular presenter.
No.
But he's a wanted, even the people that hate him and dislike him want him on their show. Yeah. So that's the difficult. He brings in the ratings.
Yeah, he does. And as I said before, he's not particularly likeable. But you listen to what he says, you watch the show with him on it. It's entertaining television. Whether you like him or not, the show is far more entertaining. As I said before, the show is far more entertaining with him on it than with him not on
Exactly.
it. And I'm not, to be honest, I'm not really looking forward to watching the show. I will watch it. I like watching the show. It's one of my regular shows I watch, but I'm not really that excited about watching it without him on it. I don't think the show's going to be as good.
Yeah. Well, I don't watch because I'm just asleep by then.
It starts at 6:30.
Yes.
You're an early...
No, I'm at the gym during the 6:30 p.m. time. So, and then when I get home, it's asleep. So
yeah, look, I do think it is the best rugby league show on television, and largely because of him. So this is a dilemma, isn't it? If he's the offence is not very serious, well, he's going to be back because he means a lot to that show.
How many times can they stand him down, though, is the real question. So
yeah, well, if you, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you're running News Corp, you'd be really running short of patience.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, we'll see what happens with that. If the police actually end up charging, and if how quickly Paul Kent will be back on all of his TV shows and stuff. It'll all depend on that. Meanwhile, the Bulldogs, rugby league is just like
it's just one drama after another, isn't it?
Everything leaks. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's being leaked now, and all of the things like on the condition of anonymity, blah, 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 a person deep into it and stuff. So Jackson Topine, a few things have come out. First of all, he was shopped to other clubs a few weeks ago. I didn't even know he still played. He was still registered with the Bulldogs.
This sort of came out on Friday, sort of just after we had a good chat about it on Friday, and then I saw this story and I thought, oh, well, we might do a bit of a follow-up on it on Monday, which is today. Apparently his agent, Topine's agent, Tyron Smith, sent an email to all 17 clubs on April 8 with his list of off-contract players that included Topine. So now his agents tried to argue that this is just, a generic list that's generated by his agency's computer. I thought, well, if it was just a list, maybe you could get away with that. But the fact is, it's got like a little bio on Jackson Topine as well on the email. It's gone into detail. It goes on about how he's the recipient of the 2022 Clubman of the Year award at the Bulldogs, and it goes into detail about his playing career and everything. So I think you could make that argument if it was just purely a list of players. But the fact that there's a bio as well that goes into detail, that makes you really go, well, it's sort of hard to fathom that you're so scarred by what happened that, you can't even bear the thought of playing rugby league anymore. It's sort of, the story doesn't sort of match up. It doesn't.
The other thing that came out was his dad sent a SMS to a Bulldogs employee a few weeks ago saying we're going to, or not long after, saying we're going to sue you and make millions of dollars off you or something like that. It's going to be the biggest lawsuit the NRL's ever seen. So things keep coming out and things will continue to come out. They're all like, as is typical of something like this, Bulldogs are a high-profile club. And this is rugby league and the NRL, so things will just keep getting leaked, and you can't sort fact from fiction with rugby league. Like you said, they said, it's just to generate a list. Like that's what they're saying, and then there's a bio about him that includes like more recent things. That's obviously been updated, and it's all, and then it's all of the information is like, but it was leaked by a source needing anonymity, and you just can't sort fact from fiction in anything in rugby league, especially when it comes to this stuff. I just keep reiterating, forget about the wrestling, just think about the mental health. It's clear that the number that they've they've now said the number they've come up with the 4 million is because it's a 10 to 12 year on average rugby league players career is 10 to 12 years, and the average rugby league player earns $400,000 a year. So they've gone $4 million. That's it. It's just they're saying that he's never going to be able to play again. That's the lawsuit. He's never going to be able to play again. And I would say the reason he's never going to be able to play again in reality is because everybody knew it was him who complained and the Bulldogs weren't playing him and none of the other clubs want him. That's the realistic nature of him never playing again.
But it fits into that, and I hate this word, but I'll use it. It fits into that narrative that, that this legal action is just coming about because no club wanted him.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
The email got sent out on April the 8th. So obviously the email's gone out and they've realised that there's no interest there. And then all of a sudden the legal action is pursued. And so then you go, well, you can't help but think that. There's an email from his agent's gone out on the 8th of April.
The reason he's never going to play again or whatever is more likely because no club wants him over the fact that he doesn't want to play again. And it's, as we said on Friday, it's going to come down to they're just going to settle, make it go away, and I hope they do, and I just hope it clears quickly, and we can forget about it because it's like if you watch the footage from Braith and Astor talking about it, it's like an impassioned plea because that's what a lot of rugby league current players feel like. That's just part of what it is. Like that's rugby league, and they all feel like no, there's no issue with anything that happened to Jackson Topine. The vast majority of rugby league players, like one rugby league player who I won't name, we were talking about it. Not recently, but before all of the things. So, 3 or 4 months ago. And he said, that guy's just a weak fuck. That was it. That was a rugby league player. That's what they think. Anyone who complains like that is just weak. And I mean, like I keep saying, mental health is completely separate to the thing. But there's so much that is giving to the narrative of the whole thing where it's like the main reason he's really suing and just declaring mental health is because of the fact that he can't get another club. And because it's rugby league, you can't sort fact from fiction. So he could have severe mental health issues based on that. And like I said the other day, like PTSD. And like you were saying, like people saying, why did he rock up to work the next day? Because what else can you do? That's just, it's
as I said the other day, it's a big step not to show up to your job regardless of what's happened to you.
I was talking to someone on Saturday about it while I was on break at a competition I was reffing. And they were saying, they were actually a crisis counsellor, and they were saying one of the things that happens in situations like that, because they listened to the podcast and they heard me talking about people who get raped go, and one of the things they were saying was the motivation for that can sometimes be because at least you can then control it. You're trying to take your power back and take control back. And so that's why the motivation. So it can be the same thing. Like Jackson Topine could have the next day gone couldn't control yesterday. I'm going to control today by going to work and controlling my life and putting it back on track. You don't know.
Yeah,
and that's why.
And by not showing up the next day, if you were to take that course of action, well, you turn what's already into a big issue into an even bigger issue.
Yeah.
And you may not in that state, you may not have the capability of dealing with that.
And so that's why, I just hope it goes away quickly, and I hope he's okay. And what can you do? There's nothing anybody can really do. But there's going to be a lot of people on the internet that are just calling him a weak. That's just say, everyone just says he's weak. But I keep reiterating, 2 hours of wrestling is not. I mean, it's hard, man. I do it every day. It's hard. Yeah. But it's a hard thing that I can do as a 44-year-old dad bod kind of guy, So a professional athlete can do it. It's the mental health and all of the lawsuit is about the mental things, like the fact that he was held against his will. He asked to stop because he was feeling bad and all that kind of thing. That's what it's about. Forget about the wrestling. And that's even the thing with that rugby league player that said that to me. It's they, at that time, we didn't, when we were having the conversation, none of the mental health things was brought up. We didn't realize. We were when it happened last year, I was saying come on, dude, it's easy. Don't be weak. But then it comes out there's all this mental health issues around it. So that's the stuff that you can't understand and you can never know. And so it's easy to comment and say, he's weak because he couldn't do 2 hours of wrestling. But mental health is no joke. So
That's true. The one point that I'd make, though, is if this email that's gone out on April the 8th from his manager, if there had been interest from 3 or 4 clubs in Topine, well, would we be getting the legal action that we're getting now? I would highly doubt that we would.
And more things like that may come out, and then you can start saying, like, I mean, it's difficult to say, but you can start more leaning on the side of one way or the other. At the moment, there's not enough information, and people are just presenting their opinions about how he's weak because he didn't want to wrestle for 2 hours. And then there are other people saying, like Benny Elias, saying, like, no, you have to understand this is modern day and the RLPA should get involved and stuff like that. Those people that have the full story, and as we get more and more leaks, everything is a leak in rugby league, then I'll start forming more of an opinion. Right now, my opinion is, man, it's if you train for long enough, you can definitely wrestle for 2 hours.
Yeah, again, it's not for everyone, right? Yeah. NRL football, it's a tough business. Yeah. It's not for... Man, these guys are playing for keeps. There's a lot at stake here, what they're playing for. It's a huge money career. And with that huge money, huge salaries they're on, what they're doing, it's hard work. Yeah. It's a hard job. And it's clearly not for everybody. And clearly it's not, if he's suffering from these issues, as serious as they may be,
he shouldn't be in rugby league.
Clearly, being an NRL footballer is a career that's not fair.
I don't agree in any way they should change rugby league practices because of that. What it really should be is the players like him who can't handle it shouldn't be involved. Like, that's it. I mean, he can take his $4 million lawsuit or whatever and maybe he'll win, but the NRL shouldn't have to change anything because of it, except perhaps people who enter into that career should understand earlier. Like, this stuff is going to happen because it's part of, like Braithen has to say, if they're turning up late to training, it means they're going to turn up late in the game. When Jake O'Driscoll was on here the other day, like a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the difference between professional and amateur athletes in jiu-jitsu, and he has a professional program that people on the internet, like, actually, because they're idiots, mock, because he requires things like professionalism in day-to-day life, turning up to training on time, stuff like that. Like, and that's part of the thing. You get punished if you turn up late to his professional program. It can be things like you don't get to train today, stuff like it can be stuff like you get Shark Tank. And it's because you have to go that extra. You have to be pushed. It's a mental strain game as much as it is as a physical game. And if you can't overcome that hardness, the difficulty, you're not going to be able to go out there on the field and feel all that pressure. So that's what I mean. I don't think the NRL should ever have to change anything. And if it changes stuff, you're going to have a weakening. When I talk weak and strong or whatever, like a weakening of the quality of football, actually, because they won't be able to enforce professionalism, and so the players will be less professional, and so the game will become worse, actually. Again, we just said it before, it's not a career for everyone. It's a very small percentage of people who are capable of playing professional rugby league, a very small percentage. And that's the argument they could make. I know I went through everything, all the, the in Topine's statement of claim. There was, quote, a deprivation of liberty and unlawful corporal punishment. It's claimed Topine suffered psychiatric injury and physical and mental impairment as a result. And that they're all very serious. But, you could argue that, well, there are times in an NRL game where you may be faced with that. Exactly.
And that's where...
Look, I know guys...
That's where his argument sort of...
I know guys who do jiu-jitsu, who want to do jiu-jitsu, who have severe claustrophobia and panic attacks. Like, multiple people. And what they do is they go through processes to overcome these things. Because no matter what, like... So on Anzac Day, I had Big Gabe on top of me. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, he's a black belt in judo, he's a world champion, he's 130 kilos, and he was on top of me for 6 minutes. It was not comfortable, it was not pleasant. Honestly, there was nothing pleasant about it. It's part of, like, wrestling. It was awful, and I had to overcome the feeling of awfulness to prevent myself from getting submitted or pinned or anything like that. And he told me it was the best I've ever done against him because he's been training for like 30 years. But like, you know, and I know guys who are in this situation where they go through these mental issues with with wrestling. And then they do go through different things. Like one guy I trained with, we went through a process where because he couldn't handle being smothered. So we actually asked, like we looked it up on the internet and I asked professionals that I know and stuff like that. Like we went through a training process where we smothered him for 30 seconds and then waited a minute and then smothered him for a minute and then waited a minute. And it was like just incrementally increasing the pressure and stuff like that. If they can't overcome that, then they realize, like jiu-jitsu hobbyists isn't professionals, but if they can't overcome that, they go, this is not for me. But they don't sue their their gym or whatever. So we have to see. We'll see what happens as more and more information comes out. But it's not a good situation, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of NRL players out there. I think they're 30-man squads, and you've got 17 teams. That's quite a few players there. And different players would handle the experience of being an NRL player differently. There'd be players who'd be very relaxed about it, who'd be more relaxed than others. But there'd be other players who wouldn't be relaxed about it. There'd be other players who'd get really stressed about it. There'd be other players who'd be really anxious. I'd imagine on game day, a lot of players would be really anxious about their performance. I'd imagine that you talked about panic attacks before. I'd imagine there'd be players who would suffer panic attacks. It's not an easy career to undertake.
Exactly.
If it was easy, with the money they get, we'd all be doing it.
Exactly.
But it's not easy. Yeah. It's not for everybody. In fact, it's not only not for everybody, it's for very few people.
Yeah, exactly. So they can work. Like we'll have to see. We're going to get seriously more and more leaks.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it will be settled at some point, this matter. But it's just going to keep going, and I guess we'll keep updating you on it as we go here.
Moving right along, at least Ricky Stewart had nothing to complain about when it goes to the ref because this week his team couldn't do anything.
You can't blame the ref when you lose 40-0.
Yeah, but in the Tigers-Broncos game, when the game was like right on the line, Api Coruscant darted over for a try, which was allowed, which was the team to try, and the bunker overruled it because It was so ridiculous. The things they said, the reasoning they gave was he loses control in the air and then never regained control before putting it down, right? So what happens is Appy darted over. The ball came away from his hand for a second and then he put his hand on it before it hit the ground and he controlled it all the way to the ground. The ball didn't hit the ground before he put his hand back on it.
Yeah, he got his hand back on it.
Yeah, and drove it into the ground.
Yeah.
And they said he lost control of it and didn't regain control. What is he supposed to do in that situation?
But and this is the problem. Like we've seen that given a try, that exact same scenario given a try so many times. That's been given a try.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sort of similar to that. Technically knocked back a few weeks ago, which 99 times out of 100 would be called a knock-off.
Yeah.
They choose this one instance not to give it as the decision that it's always given.
And the Broncos went on to smash the Tigers. And the Tigers outdid the Dragons' try of the year with their own try of the year in that game. It was amazing. Every single player in the team touched the ball at least once during the try. Yeah. But it was absolutely ridiculous. And it was... The process they went through where they said that, like whoever the video referee, the bunker referee was Api Coruscant loses control of the ball and never regains control of it before grounding it. I have a decision, it's a knock on. Like, no, he did. Like, what is regain control then?
This always gets given a try. Yeah. Always. That's exact same scenario. He's given a try. Now in this one instance, they decide to give it as a no try.
Why is every single other time in that situation they've regained control and just for that one they haven't? If I was Benji Marsh, because this is the second or third time we've had a Tigers referee blunder actually this year. It's only 8 rounds in, the second or third. If I was Benji Marshall, I'd be the new Ricky Stewart, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there was downward pressure, so it should have been given a try. But this gets back to my old argument about the technology. Now, with the bunker in place, we keep having these issues. And with the technology in place, you've got a hold up. There's a hold up to it. Comes having to look at these decisions over and over again. It comes at a cost. The cost is the flow of the game, and it's not as appealing for the spectators because of of so many breaks in play. Add to that they get them wrong, like they have here. So I go back to my old argument. I'll say 95%. I'm being kind to them. They certainly don't get it right 95% of the time. But even if they did get it right 95% of the time with the bunker, let's give them that. Say they get it right 95% of the time, the bunker. Wouldn't you rather have the referees, the touch judges, and if you bring back the in-goal judges, wouldn't you rather all of them make the decision and get 80% of them right than 95% with the technology? You'd take out all the stoppages. It'd be far more entertaining for the fans. Yes, you are going to have instances where the referees get them wrong, but the bunker gets them wrong as well.
Yeah, well, if the bunker got it wrong 100% of the time, it would be okay. That's the thing. If it got 100% of the time, it would be okay. It wouldn't be good because of the breakage in the game. It would be okay.
Oh, you mean if it got it right?
Sorry, if it got it right 100% of the time, it'd be okay. Yeah. It'd be okay because we don't want the game to spoil. Sorry, if you got it right, maybe producer John can fix that. But if they got it right 100% of the time, it would be okay. But even 1% is because it's there to get it right 100% of the time. There should be at no point with the amount of technology, the amount of times they look, there should be no reason for there to be any inconsistencies, actually. None. There's no reason they should ever get it wrong with all the bunker. Zero. Okay? And they get it wrong week in, week out. And so wrong. Like I said, the Broncos went on to smash it. But the game was in the balance there. It was like 10-6 or something like that. They were close. They were close to each other. You can't go. The Tigers can't. I like it because Benji Marshall doesn't go around and go like, that's the reason we lost and stuff like Ricky Stewart would. But it fundamentally changed the game, and the Tigers couldn't overcome it, allowing the Broncos to run away with it because it was wrong. It was so wrong. I was watching it. I'm just like, there's a try. Like, I'm going to go get my new drink or whatever. At that time, I come back, it's a no try. I thought so little of it. I didn't even pay attention to what they said. And then I was like, what the hell? I had to rewind and go like, how the hell was that not a try? And you see the frustration on mainly Epic Coruscant's face as well. But I can't imagine any Broncos players walking away going, yeah, they got that right. That's the other thing. Like, I can't imagine any Broncos player looking at that going, yeah, that wasn't a try.
Just the number of times where, again, I go back to that, the decision where, that knock-on decision from a few weeks ago, that's really in a similar boat to this one. It's the exact same sort of scenario where everybody watching it thinks one way, and yet the official in the bunker gives the opposite decision.
It doesn't make any sense.
For this to continue to happen, it's just so bizarre to me. And, that's the thing. With use of the bunker, they're trying to have the perfect game. Perfection does not exist, as we've seen here. They keep getting them wrong. So wouldn't you rather blow the bunker up, do away with it, go back to just having the on-field officials making all the decisions, get the flow of the game happening again? Wouldn't you prefer that to this circus that comes up every second week?
I think everyone would. Now, if you watch the Sea Eagles versus Eels game, then multiple charges have come out of it. That was like the really bitter.
Yes.
Like it really was back to the 1980s.
They are old rivals, and it continues to show.
It was a good old-fashioned spear tackle almost.
How you mentioned all these charges: Haumale Olakau'atu and Daly Cherry Evans, both facing 2-game bans after they were charged with a dangerous throw on Eels forward Sean Lane. They get 2 games with an early plea or 3 if they unsuccessfully contest it. The judiciary, we're not sure what the outcome is of that. I'm guessing we'll get it later on today. We are recording on Monday morning.
Stupid to contest it because it was very bad.
Ryan Madison and the Sea Eagles weren't the only ones to have charges. Parramatta pair, Ryan Madison and Micah Sevo, were also charged from the game. Madison's facing a $1,000 fine for his high tackle on Luke Brooks. Sevo's facing a $3,000 fine for his dangerous contact charge on Ruben Garrick. I don't know why these players are getting fined for high tackles and dangerous contact. I don't know why they're getting fines and not suspensions.
We'll talk about Mike Acevo in a minute because there was also 3 sin bins. Olakuatu, Will Penasini and Mike Acevo all sin binned. And Olakuatu was in
the Penasini one later too.
In the 4th minute. Like, he really set the standard of the game. But it was crazy. Like, really, it was a crazy game of football with... Do they all really hate each other? Like, that's what it seemed like. It seems like 17 players on either, or 34 players that would never be able to play in the same team as each other.
But to be honest, I don't mind it in a sense. It adds a bit of spite to it. And the next time these teams play, well, they're going to sell more tickets and they're going to get more eyeballs watching on TV. Yeah. So from that point of view, I sort of like it. It's like that old sort of 80s,
cool.
That old sort of 80s and 90s hate is back. And
it really was like a 1980s kind of game. And you don't see it very often because, there was a few weeks ago where there was like some team got smashed and then some of the players went over and took photos with some of their friends from the other team, and then people were complaining like, how are you smiling with your ex-teammates when you just got smashed and stuff? And I was like, come on, man, they're all friends. But none of these, like I said, I can't see any after that. If that was consistent, you'd never be able to name a rep team in which any of those players were playing with each other. You just wouldn't. Because they just seem to hate each other. Like, physically hate each other.
I can't wait till... That's the thing.
Are they rematching?
The next time that they play each other, I'm going to be watching it. I'm pretty sure you're going to be watching it as well.
Are they rematching this year?
We'll have a look at that. We'll just get the draw up.
It'll be an Eels home game as well. Unfortunately not.
They're not, so that was their only game this year?
They already played, actually. That's the second time they played this year.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, they played back in... Eels beat them 28-24 in round 3. Seagulls beat them 32-18 in round 8.
It's really strange that they would play each other in round 3.
Don't ever try to understand the draw.
Again, that's really...
Apparently the NRL pays hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it done so it meets all of the requirements, and it's just beyond stupid. Shark's still sitting on top of that.
I can't work that one out.
Shark's still sitting on top of that, and the Bulldogs are in the 8.
I'll tell you why I'm not getting carried away with that, though, because...
They beat the bye?
Well, there's 3 teams below them who have a 4-4 record, and they're 3-4 with a bye. So if they can... And I think they'll beat... I don't want to jinx it, but I think they will beat the Tigers this week. Yep. If they can win that game and be 4-4, then I'll be happy and go, look, for them, I think after 8 games, you take 4 wins, 4 losses. But at the moment, I'm not getting carried away because they're only in 8th spot because of the bye. There's teams below them with a better record than them.
Yes, that's true. So out of that game, Mike Acevo got sin binned and only a fine. I don't really understand why he only got a fine because he was elbowing a player on the ground.
Very strange.
And then during the Rabbitohs game, Tane Milne did a cannonball tackle with a few minutes to go. We haven't seen a cannonball tackle in like 10 years. So just these kind of players, Mike Acevo's just back from a suspension, was out for a 6-week suspension last year. I think got suspended twice last year. Tane Milne, actually, he was meant to be suspended for like 6 or 8 weeks, but was able to use his suspensions during the World Cup for some unknown reason.
Loopholes,
Yeah. Neither of these players... I mean, Mike Acevo scores a lot of tries, but he's just a winger. You can chuck anyone big on the wing and...
That's the thing. He did score 3 of their 4 tries on Friday
but there's so many wingers. They're a dime a dozen. You just need a big lad who can run fast and jump through the air, basically. So are these guys even worth keeping, to be honest? Like, you go to JWH and Victor Radley and stuff like that over the Roosters as well, but I think Sevo and Milne are at the beginnings of their career. They're both young, and they've both... Well, as I looked at it today, like Mike Acevo, he's been at the... what are they called? The Eels for years, actually. He's 30 years, so he's not even young, but that comes to it as well, right? He's been there since 2019, so in 5 years he's played 106 games, which sounds like a lot. But the thing is, he's very rarely injured. All the games he's missed are basically through suspension.
This is you put on the rundown, are they worth keeping? Well, that's the thing. You weigh it up, don't you? You weigh it up and you go, well, he did. That's the thing. I've got to point it out. He did score 3 of their 4 tries. So that's the thing. Like, people we rightly point out that there were 11 minutes to go when he put that elbow in the head. The Eels were down 20-18. So at that point, they were in the game. He's had a brain explosion, and it's cost them because Manly attacked that side where he would have been defending, and they end up winning the game 32-18. So that's cost them. But, and I know a lot of wingers can score tries, but he scores 3 of their 4 tries. Without his 3 tries, they're not in the game at that point.
Yeah, he has a massively high hit rate as well. It's 93 tries from 106 games.
That's the thing, right? So obviously the Parramatta coaching staff are aware of his shortcomings, but they're making, and I know they're going to be very upset with this latest insert. Well, they'll be upset about it because it has cost them the game. It's gone a long way towards costing them the game. But, obviously their decision makers have made a calculation that overall, on balance, we think we're a better side with him in the team than without him. And we talk about Tane. You talked about Tane Milne as well. Tane Milne scored a try, a moment of stupidity at the end of the game there with that hit on Munster. But he scored a try for the Rabbitohs as well. Not only that, he had 5 offloads for the game, the most of any Rabbitohs player. 5 offloads. Offloads are so important in the game now because teams are so structured with the way they attack. The only real point of difference teams can have is getting offloads away. He also had 2 tackle breaks and a line break. Tackle breaks and offloads win you games. Line breaks win you games. Probably those 3 things more than anything else win you games. So this is the thing. It's easy to just say, oh yeah, get rid of them because they both had stupid brain snaps. But they bring a lot to the table as well, these players.
These kind of players, Tane Milne and Mike Acevo especially, are in teams that are not doing well. And their continued brain snaps, suspensions and so on contribute to the team not doing well. So they do. When a coach in the club looks at a player like that and goes, but he got 3 tackle breaks and he scored 3 tries and so on and so forth. It's like, I know he scores a try a week, but whoop-de-doo. It's like Latrell Mitchell scoring his 100th try after they've been beat 34-18 or whatever. It's irrelevant. It doesn't. Mike Acevo constantly being out suspended. For massive suspensions as well. And then, it's the thing is he doesn't get suspended for 1 or 2 weeks like Victor Radley does, for example, or JWH. He gets suspended for 6 weeks at a time, causing a major reshuffle, and then walks straight back into the... he has been in reserve grade a couple of times. Walks straight back into the team, scores a few tries, doesn't make a difference to the place on the ladder. He gets suspended a few weeks later for another 6 weeks. Sin bin and lets in a bunch of tries again. I just think when you look at it as the team as a whole, they don't contribute enough to warrant keeping them. Players like that, not just Mike Acevo and Tane Milne are the 2 examples over the weekend, but I just think they don't contribute enough. If their teams were at the top of the ladder, if they were a powerhouse team like the Roosters who had the depth to cover and continued to win, then it's not so bad to lose JWH every now and twice a year for 2 rounds. But the fact is, the Eels are 3-5, sitting at 14th. Brad Arthur's job's in danger. Rabbitohs are last, and these guys are giving away penalties and getting suspended and causing team reshuffles.
The only, and I know Sevo, I guess that's the first. It's a 2-way street with Sevo, isn't it? Because you go. Well, it was 20-18. They were down. They're on 18 points because, and they got 4 tries in that 18 points. 3 of them come from him. So if you take him out of it, well, it's not 20-18 at that point. It's 20-6.
Yeah.
And so you go. So you look at that side of it, right? But then you go. But he gets long-term suspensions as well, and then you go. Well, all those weeks he's not there, he's no help to his team, and they're struggling on the ladder. So at some point, they've made a calculation, obviously. Parramatta have made a calculation that overall they're better off with Sevo on their roster. and the Rabbitohs have made a calculation that they're better off with Tane Milne on their roster. But maybe they need to reassess.
Yeah, I think their calculation is wrong.
Yeah, well, it may be. It may be. Going into the weekend's games, that was their calculation.
Yeah.
Maybe as a result of what's happened, maybe they've changed their minds as a result of that. But that's the only thing I'd say in Sivo's defence. Yeah, all right, there was a brain explosion with 11 minutes to go. I'm more willing to defend him than Tane Milne. That Tane Milne hit on Munster was just horrible and inexcusable.
Yeah.
And Sivo, it was just stupid putting an elbow in on the ground. But that's the thing, you take his 3 tries out and they're not in the game at that point. But we've got to stop with these suspensions. He's got to be on the field more.
Both of these teams are going to do reviews at the end of the year. You just know they are. And that's the kind of thing they need to reassess their calculation of. But every team needs to look at their players like that, every year.
Yeah.
What do they bring?
You weigh it up.
Yeah.
You weigh it up. What's this player... how much of a contribution is this player really making to us? And overall, is it beneficial to us or is it detrimental to us?
Yeah, I think at the moment both of them are detrimental.
Well, certainly with those 2 incidents they were. But anyway, we'll see how that plays out. We'll see if... I
think Sivo was extended as well, got a new contract.
So we'll keep our eye on those 2 players and see what develops there.
Speaking of the Eels...
Yes,
it was what's his name? Penasini.
Yeah, so they were dudded here by the officials, Parramatta. This was a bad one. Penasini was sent to the sin bin for a professional foul on Tom Trbojevic. Midway through the second half, Luke Brooks put a kick over the top of Parramatta's line and into open space for Trbojevic to chase down. Just as it looked like Trbojevic had picked the ball up and scored, he was brought down by Penasini. Now, it's come out, looking at the vision, Penasini, as we know, was sent to the sin bin. Ruben Garrick kicked a penalty goal to extend Manly's lead to 6 at that time. However, replays clearly showed Trbojevic was in front of Brooks when he kicked the ball, meaning he was offside, so he should have been penalised. It should have been irrelevant that he was taken out because he was offside anyway. And so not only should he not have gone to the bin, the penalty should have gone the other way. And at that time, Parramatta were only down by 4 points. The penalty goal put Manly ahead by 6 with a bit over 20 minutes to go. So... Brad Arthur wasn't happy about it, and
did they have their challenge at that point? I don't really understand the challenge rules anyway. They constantly say, you can't challenge now. Well, why can't I challenge now? And the other day in the...
I suspect maybe they'd already used their challenge.
In the Roosters, I think in the Roosters game, I know there's 10 seconds to use your challenge. They even meant in the Roosters-Dragons game, they even mentioned when the Roosters used one of their challenges, they were like, that's been well over 10 seconds. So even when if you can challenge and there's limits on the challenge, you never know if it's even going to be allowed to do it.
To be honest, I'm not sure whether they had a challenge up their sleeve. It was at the 57th minute, so I'm thinking maybe by that stage they'd already used their challenge. If they hadn't have used their challenge at that stage, well, clearly they should have.
Yeah, or maybe you can't on that play, or who knows. They're always so weird with the thing. I don't really understand.
That's the thing. There were, we always do it on this podcast. We look at the whole picture. Brad Arthur not happy about that decision, but also look what Mike Acevo did.
Yeah.
That put Parramatta in more of a hole than that decision did. And to be fair to Brad Arthur, though, I think he understands that.
Yeah.
He's an honest, authentic coach. He's not one of those coaches like a Trent Robinson, for example, who just blames everything on the referee if they get beat.
Well, he didn't do that on Thursday.
No, he didn't, but he has been a lot this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Over in the Panthers game against the Cowboys, I forgot this game was on, to be honest.
I actually covered it on Saturday.
But Sunia Taruvia didn't play, and Ivan Cleary has come out and said why. Now, the reason is actually because he signed with the Tigers in 2025, was the conspiracy theory at the time.
Yes, but it has come to light that Well, I'll just quote Ivan Cleary for you. He says, Sunia didn't play mainly because he was going through his contract decision and still negotiating. So it was something that has been sort of going on for a few weeks. I think people don't quite understand how much that can take out of someone, especially a young man with such a big decision. Not just professionally wise, but emotionally. That's why we gave him the night off. He'll be back next week. So he's cleared that up nicely there, Ivan Cleary. And I think it's a very smart decision, and he's right. A big decision like that can take a lot out of a player mentally. And I think we've got to give Ivan Cleary a lot of credit for being mature enough to handle it in this manner.
Yeah, he basically gave him the day off to help him.
Yeah, but it's no wonder that a team that works like this, that operates like this, is the best team in the competition.
And everyone wants to play
that's won the last three premierships.
He gave him the day off to help him. It wasn't a punishment. That's just the funniest thing about it. Like, everyone was like, oh, he punished him. And it was like, well, no, actually... the reason was because he was working out his contract and he gave it up as like a reward.
It's the mature way of dealing with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of clubs would have handled it in the way you were just that conspiracy of, oh, you've signed with another club, all right, we're banishing you from our side.
Sometimes I think they should. There are some circumstances where I think they should, like, you know, if, say, Gordon Tallis signs with the Broncos or something like that, they should sit him out for a year.
Oh, yeah.
When it's my team.
Yeah, that happened to your Dragons.
Yeah.
Still filthy about it all these years later. So, I think really well handled by Ivan Cleary. Full credit there. Paul Alamotti stepped in for Taruva, the former Bulldog, ran for 181 metres and scored that intercept try. So, well done to Alamotti. And that's the thing, they can rest someone like Taruva and bring Alamotti in, who's clearly no slouch there. So the depth of this team is just sensational.
It's like they've got 3 first-grade teams. Like
I think they're going to be able to cover Fisher Harris somehow.
They must
find a way to cover him.
And of course, it wouldn't be an episode of the SmartB Sports Update podcast where we didn't talk about Latrell Mitchell, who's considering redrawing his name from Origin to revive the Rabbitohs season. He will be back next week.
He's going to be back. He's got one more game to serve on his suspension, so he'll miss that game against the Panthers on Thursday, but then he'll return against your Dragons. I wouldn't be too worried about that, though, if I was you, given the lack of form that he's shown so far this season. So the Dragons
this week are playing the Sharks, which they'll probably lose, and then they can win again. Sharks sitting on top of the ladder. Yeah, well, he can do what he wants. It doesn't matter. He wasn't going to get picked from Origin. It's always funny to me when someone withdraws their name.
That's the thing. He wasn't going to be picked anyway.
Yeah. I was going to withdraw my name from something I wasn't going to be picked for. Thanks, Ricky Stewart. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to take the New South Wales coaching job. Yeah, we weren't going to offer it to you.
Well, there you go. I mean, you asked me just before when we were off camera, well, when does the Origin team get named? Well, that game against the Dragons where Latrell returns, that's only 16 days before Michael Maguire names his side for Game 1 of the Origin series. So, it'd have to be a huge form reversal from Latrell to even be considered to play State of Origin.
He only plays like 2 games or something before
that's the thing. He hasn't played Origin since 2021 anyway. Latrell. So there's every chance, seriously, there's every chance that he's sat down with the Rabbitohs and he's probably said to him, look, I don't even want to play. He probably doesn't even want to play Origin anyway, so he's probably come to some agreement with him where he said, look, just to keep you happy, I'll just pull out of Origin because I don't really want to play anyway, and I'll just say that to make it look like I'm focused on the Rabbitohs.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if that's how it's gone down.
He wasn't going to get picked anyway. It's so funny to me every time someone withdraws their name for contention for something they're not going to get picked for.
Yeah, he's shown no sign. He's been horribly out of form and he hasn't played Origin for 3 years anyway.
He should withdraw his name from contention for Queensland. Like, he's got just as much chance of getting picked for Queensland as he does for New South Wales. It's like to me, it's like such a... it's kind of like putting on a show.
Well, that's the thing. His start to the season has been so bad that he's even a player of his stature is going to lose his position at the club. It looks like Jai Gray, who has in a really struggling team, has shown really good signs of form. It looks like Jai Gray is going to remain at fullback and Latrell's going to come back at centre. So he's been demoted in his own club side. So someone being demoted in their own club side is hardly, due to a horrible lack of form, is hardly going to get a look in when it comes to Origin selection.
Especially when we need to win.
Yes.
So on the weekend, Shane Flannagan was interviewed about going up against the Sharks.
Yes, he had some interesting
Dragons
things to
derby
say.
is coming, and he's such a funny guy.
Yeah, well, some really interesting quotes from Shane Flannagan. He says that the date of his Shark Park return has long been circled on his calendar. He says he's really interested in beating the Sharks. That's a quote. And he also said, I won a comp there. I don't think they've won one since, have they? Ooh, bit spicy, bit of herb and spice there.
He's so funny, man. Yeah, they haven't. Come on, man. It's the Dragons. What have they done since 2010? Didn't the Sharks win after the Dragons? Yes. So,
and this is the thing, that the timing's interesting. I mean, I know he made these comments before the Sharks won 40-0 over the Raiders, but we are going into a Sharks v Dragons game next weekend where the Sharks are coming off a 40-0 win over the Raiders. The Dragons are coming off a 60-18 loss to the Roosters. So, I mean, I know, and Craig Gower talked about it as well in detail when we had him on, of this bounce-back factor this year. Teams losing one week, winning the next week. And I know that could be a factor here. But, the form line shows that Cronulla are going to be hot favourites going into this one. So the timing of Flanagan's comments are interesting. What I would say, though, is I like his honesty. Often in this scenario, you'll get a coach where they're going up against their old...
Just another game.
So it's just another game. It's no big deal when you know that it is a big deal. And at least Shane Flanagan's been honest about that publicly, so I give him credit for that.
Yeah, you can't tip anyone this year. Just, come on, the Knights won. The Titans won. So, there's every chance the Dragons could take it, but, realistically, as you say, the form, the line, I don't even want to...
Yeah, it's certainly with Cronulla going into this game, that's for sure.
And then finally with the NRL Rugby League this week, the NRL did a lovely Anzac Day social media post honouring Australian troops. Because it's actually the what's it called, it's actually just the AC Day. It's not the Anzac Day. It's just AC Day. They seem to have forgotten something in.
Yeah, they forgot something important. They left any mention of New Zealand out of that post. So
from the next year,
it's a red-faced moment for the NRL social media team.
Yep, AC Day. We what is it? It's Australian New Zealand Army Corps. Yeah,
Australia and New Zealand Army Corps. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah.
No, it's actually just the Australian Army Corps. While you're typing it and you put ANZAC, what are you missing there? It's in front of your face, social media manager.
I think maybe if there wasn't a New Zealand team in the competition and not a New Zealand team actually playing on Anzac Day, maybe they could have gotten away with it. But there has been a New Zealand team in the NRL for nearly 30 years now.
20% of the league is New Zealanders or something.
And a lot of New Zealand players as well. So it is a bit of a silly gaffe. They later corrected themselves. They went out with a new post, including a mention of New Zealand. So they rectified their mistake, but it's a pretty silly mistake.
Absolutely,
I would have thought.
It was stupid. That's it for Rugby League. On to other sports. I really think Dave Warner isn't going to get picked for the T20 World Cup at this stage.
Jake Fraser McGurk, just sensational form in the IPL. Now he's at the top of the order for the Delhi Capitals in place of David Warner at the moment. So apparently David Warner is nursing an injured finger. I don't know how much we can read into that. He was fine the last time we looked at it, and Ponting decided to leave him out. But now they're saying it's an injured finger, so you don't know whether they're just saying that to cover the fact that they've dropped him.
What does Candice Warner say?
Yeah, well, she's the spokesperson for David, that's for sure. But that just a phenomenal innings by Jake Fraser McGurk there. Hit 84 off just 27 balls, including a half century off 15 balls. That's the joint fourth fastest in the IPL in the history. 15 balls for a half century. just extraordinary. Yeah, just amazing. He went on to hit 11 fours and 6 sixes in the innings, recording the highest of his 3 half-centuries compiled in just 5 matches since coach Ricky Ponting decided to gamble on putting him in a struggling team. With Warner and Mitch Marsh injured, that's the other thing, Mitch Marsh is injured as well. He stepped in for 247 runs at an extraordinary strike rate of 237.5. So just extraordinary numbers by...
So he should get picked for Australia.
Fraser McGurk. Yeah, well, Michael Clark said as much in the commentary. He said he really doesn't think they can ignore Jake Fraser McGurk any longer. And he thinks that conditions are going to be pretty similar in the Caribbean, the slower wickets, as they are in the IPL as well. So that's yet another tick in the column of Jake Fraser McGurk here.
Yeah, well, Dave Warner and Steve Smith's out of form as well. Steve Smith doesn't even have a contract. So it's going to be interesting with that T20 World Cup, I think. You know, like what even the team makeup is, because can they pick Dave Warner and Steve Smith just because? You know, like just because?
Well, they may not. You might do that if you're struggling to fill your team, but if you've got players like this knocking the door down, like your Jake Fraser McGurks, well, maybe you have to think twice about that. I think it's, you know, you've just got to pick your most informed team with all of these tournaments. I think that's the path you've got to take. You got someone hitting 84 off 27 balls in the premier domestic 2020 league in the world going into a 2020 World Cup. If you're not picking a player who's putting up those numbers in that league, well, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah, just picking guys based on names.
Yeah, I think you've got to throw Fraser McGurk in there. As things stand now, obviously we assume that this run of form will continue. You have every reason to think that it would.
Yeah, there's just under a month left of the IPL before the T20 World Cup kicks off, and we're going to have Gavin Robertson in I think in 2 weeks to break down Australia's chances in the World Cup, and
great.
That's one of the things we can discuss.
Well, I'm looking forward to talking to him about Jake Fraser McGurk, and we will talk to him about, you know, where David Warner and Steve Smith sit in relation to Australian T20 World Cup selection.
Yeah. And Rafael Nadal, we discussed it the other day, Alex de Minaur wiped him, and he's played him again, which is a bit weird, two weeks in a row.
2 tournaments in a row.
But the situation has reversed. Now, Nadal didn't wipe Alex de Minaur like Alex de Minaur did to Nadal. I think they had a tiebreaker in the first set.
Yeah, it was 8-6 in the tiebreaker, so a really tight first set. Nadal won that one 7-6. Then he won the second set 6-3. So that is a real turnaround from Nadal, a quick turnaround in form. So well done to him there. What I didn't like, I've got to be honest about it. Now, Nadal said 2 days ago, or before this match against de Minaur, this rematch against de Minaur, he said, and I quote, he'd have been totally surprised if he'd been able to beat de Minaur. Now, I really don't get that. I know he's been out for a long time. I know he's been injured and he hasn't had much match time compared to de Minaur in recent times. But that having been said, he's won the French Open 14 times. De Minaur's never been past the second round at the French Open. And I know Nadal's 37 and de Minaur's 25. But if you're going out there to play, I don't think you can be coming out saying, look, I'd be totally surprised if I won. Again, this is on clay. Nadal's won the French Open 14 times. De Minaur's never been past the second round. I don't care how many matches you've played. If you've got that sort of a record at the French Open and you're playing on clay, then you're going to be a chance of beating someone who's never got past the second round of the French Open.
You would think so.
Seriously.
I would think so.
Seriously. But anyway, I mean, de Minaur seemed to make... I didn't really like de Minaur's reaction after the match either. He seemed to make excuses. He said conditions in Madrid make it trickier to play the way you want to play. This is what he said. And he did have that win over Nadal in Barcelona on Nadal's court. But he says you play in Barcelona, then all of a sudden this match over here, everything doubles, talking about the match in Madrid. All the outside noise doubles. I wish I would have played better, but this level lifted and he was looking quite good out there his level lifted, I should have said. Yeah, I don't know if you get beaten in straight sets, I don't think you can be blaming the conditions. No. I think that's poor form. I think you just got to tip your hat to your opponent in that situation. But anyway, I mean, now we sort of look at Nadal, and he continues on in that tournament in Madrid. He's the 5-time champion there. And, I think he mentioned that he was going to decide he was going to play in Rome. Yeah, he won't make a decision on playing at the French Open until after Rome, which starts next week. We're just waiting to see how he gets through this tournament in Madrid and then see how he goes in Rome, and then he's going to make a decision on whether he's going to take part in the French Open.
Well, hopefully he does, but only if he's good. That's
the thing. We really only want him to play if he's going to be a genuine chance of winning the tournament. If he's not, we don't really want to see him take the court because we don't want to see him tarnish his great legacy at that event where he has only lost 3 matches at the event over the course of his career and won it a staggering 14 times.
Exactly. So that's it for sports around the world. We do have a couple of social media blower-uppers that I forgot to add to the rundown, so I've just jumped onto YouTube right now to discuss. On a short about Mitchell Pearce in 2019's Origin.
Yep.
Mitulala8857 said, lots of players easily can give up midway through their careers going through so much backlash and setbacks and criticism, especially if you're a halfback, but Piercy didn't. So much resiliency, what a journey. Mm-hmm. That's one of the main reasons I really loved Piercy as a player. Overall, has always been one of my favourite players, was because everyone just always blamed him for everything. But he just kept going and turning up and playing consistently and trying and... like Andrew John says, one of the 3rd best halfback.
I think it was between 2010 and 2021. Andrew Johns was on a podcast in 2021 and said he rated Mitchell Pearce as the 3rd best halfback of that
that era.
Decade, basically.
And that decade was the decade of the halfback. So
100%. And Mitchell Pearce never complained about all the criticism he would cop. Never complained once. And he just played in an era where Queensland had so many great players. He was up against an Origin team that had Cronk, Slater, Smith, Thurston, Greg Inglis, Darren Lockyer. I mean, that's 6 all-time greats of the game in one team. He was just very unlucky to have played in an era where all those players were playing for Queensland.
He always copped the flack, even though... the forwards even, you talk about those guys that are all-time greats. There was the forwards like Petro Sivanasiva, Corey Parker, Tony Carroll, these great forwards, rolling New South Wales forwards. Just rolling them and the halves can't do anything if your forwards are getting bashed. They need quick play the balls. And talked about it before, Dean Young being the best player in Origin in the game he played. Corey Parker in that game ran more metres than the entire forward pack of New South Wales combined. How is a halfback supposed to do anything if one forward from the opposing team is running more metres than your whole forward pack? How can a halfback do anything? They can't get the ball. All they're doing is one-out passes because they don't have time. Your forwards are meant to lay a platform and give time, and no, they never got as much flack as Piercy, but it's true. Champion player.
Yeah, good comment.
On episode 70, that was 2 episodes ago, Nick for Payokara, we were talking about the Roosters at this point in about 13 minutes in. He said, last 2 years the Roosters have won by the skin of their teeth, 1 point and 2 point win in the finals. Just to get through. And then, that's what we were saying. They get wiped straight afterwards. That's why Trent Robinson is underperforming as a coach, because they've just scraped through into their finals last couple of years, and then what happened? They got dumped.
Yeah, they've been underperforming for a long time now. I think they've only made the top 4 once since they won the premiership in 2019, and that year where they did make the top 4, that was 2020, where they had Sonny Bill, but they went out in straight sets that year. And every year since then, they've not made the top 4. And not made it to the prelim finals or better. And with their roster, they really should have. Again, they got that big win over the Dragons on Anzac Day, and that, I think, obviously is taking the pressure off Trent Robinson at this point in time. But if they if they don't continue with that run of form, if they drop another couple of games, all the pressure will be back on him. I'm pretty sure they are still 4-4.
Yeah, 4-4.
4-4.
But they're
record,
in the
so,
in the 8.
That they should, with their roster, they should be doing better than 4-4.
Yeah.
So if they start to lose, if they go on another losing run, well, the pressure will come back on Trent Robinson, and so it should. They need to keep the foot on the accelerator and keep winning games.
And finally, Vic Sophius 5892 talking about episode 70. Said, John, you're a smart man. Don't talk the Dragons up. They don't need that type of pressure.
Well, I guess you're right not to talk them up.
Sorry, Dragons.
Going into Anzac Day, you're right not to.
Now they're going to be smashed all year. That's it for the week. Just make sure you sign up for SmartB if you haven't already. And if you have, jump on the tip of the day and the daily best bets notifications. Manage your notifications and to get the news you want straight to your inbox. SmartB Racing Update hasn't aired for the last couple of weeks, but they'll be getting back onto that. And don't forget to follow at SmartB app on social medias, and we'll see everybody on Thursday.
Thanks, Sean. I'll see you then, mate.
See you, Dan, and by producer No One and by producer TL:DV. That's our AI bot listening to us and creating the timestamps that are now available on our podcasts. Bye, everybody.